All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about a skill that can honestly change everything about how you learn, how you think, and even how you create. We're talking about taking effective notes. We're going to go from just, random scribbles on a page to a powerful system for your own knowledge. So let's get into it. We've all been there, right? It's the day of the big test. You were in the lecture, you listened, but you get to a question and nothing. Your mind is just a total blank. This instructor, they see it all the time. A student just writes, "I don't remember." And what do they get? A big fat 0. Look, this isn't about being a bad student. It's just about not having the right tools for the job. So just how bad is it to rely only on your memory? Well, the numbers are kind of shocking, actually. When you just listen to information and don't write any of it down, you've only got about a 5% chance of remembering it later. Just 5%. That means 95% of that lecture, that important meeting, that brilliant idea you had, poof, it's just gone. But now, look at this. Check out the huge jump we get when we add one simple thing. Just the act of taking notes boosts your recall from that tiny 5% all the way up to 34%. That is a massive difference. It really shows you the problem and the solution all at once. Your notes are basically your safety net against forgetting.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We've just seen the forgetting problem. Next, we'll talk about how to get ready for success before you even start writing. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the actual frameworks for getting stuff down on the page. After that, we're going to level up to a really pro system for building what some people call a second brain. And finally, we'll bring it all together to help you pick the right system for you.
All right, let's start with the foundation, because here's the secret. Great note-taking doesn't actually start when the professor starts talking. Nope, it starts before you even walk into the room. It is all about the prep work. And that preparation really just comes down to 2 super simple habits. First, take 5 or 10 minutes to just review your notes from the last class. That warms up your brain, reminds you where you left off. Second, spend about 15 minutes previewing the new stuff. Skim the chapter, look at the headings. This is so important because it primes your brain. It gives you these little mental hooks, so when the new information comes at you, you've got a place to hang it. Okay, so you're prepped, you're in the room, you're ready to go. Now what? How do you actually capture what's being said, especially when the speaker is talking a mile a minute? This is where you need a good framework. The first and maybe the most important idea is this. Put your notes on a diet. The biggest mistake most of us make is we either write almost nothing or we try to write everything down, word for word. A note-taking diet just means you shrink it down. You keep only the important stuff and you ditch all the filler. And here's a perfect example. On the left, that's what a professor might say. Now, if you try to write that whole thing down, they're going to be 3 sentences ahead of you before you're done. But look at the diet version on the right. You just drop the fluff, you use symbols, you use abbreviations. Reconstruction becomes R. Andrew Johnson is just AJ. You're capturing the exact same core information, but in a fraction of the time. It lets you actually keep up and listen. Now, for those of you who want a bit more structure, one of the most famous and effective systems out there is the Cornell method. And it's not just about taking notes. It's a whole system for organizing and studying them, all on one piece of paper. It's a classic for a reason. The real genius of this method is how simple the layout is. Before class, you just divide your page into 3 sections. That big, wide column on the right, that's where you take your diet notes during the lecture. And the other 2 spots, that skinny column on the left and the box at the very bottom, you just leave those totally blank for now. But here's what makes the Cornell method so powerful. It's an active process. After the lecture, you go back to that page. In that left-hand Q column, you pull out the main ideas, or even better, you write questions that your notes answer. Then you cover up the main notes section, and you try to answer those questions out loud, just using your cues. Suddenly, your notes become this amazing self-testing tool. And finally, you write a quick 1 or 2 sentence summary at the bottom. Boom, you've just processed that information on a much deeper level. So if the Cornell method is all about acing the test, Zettelkasten is the pro level. This is for when you want to do more than just recall facts. This is for connecting ideas, for generating new insights, and for building a personal knowledge base that grows with you for years. Think of it like building your very own searchable, interconnected second brain. The whole entire system is built on this one simple core idea, the atomic note. It just means that every single note you create has only one idea in it. Just one, that's it. And the reason for this is it keeps everything super simple, super clear, and incredibly flexible. Each note becomes its own little Lego brick of knowledge.
Because once you have all these little atomic notes, these little building blocks, the magic happens when you start linking them together. You're no longer making a boring straight list of facts. You're building a web, a network of interconnected thoughts. When you link a concept from, say, biology to an idea you had from a history book, you can spark insights that you literally would never have had otherwise. Your notes stop being an archive, and they become a dynamic tool for thinking.
Okay, so we've looked at two very different but very powerful systems. One is super structured for learning and remembering things. The other is this dynamic network for research and creativity. So, how on earth do you choose? Let's break it down. Which one is right for you? Well, the Cornell method is your go-to for structured classes and lectures, especially when your main goal is to remember stuff for a test. It's a medium effort system that gives you a huge return on retention. On the other hand, Zettelkasten, that's for the long haul. It's for big research projects, creative work, where your goal is to generate new ideas and make connections. It's definitely higher effort, but the payoff is this incredibly deep, personal web of knowledge. So, if you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this. Your notes aren't just a passive record of things you've heard. They are an active tool for thinking. It's about engaging with ideas and turning all that information out there into knowledge that you can actually use. So my question for you is, looking at everything we've covered, what's the one change you're going to make to your own process, starting today?